Hello everyone, thank you for tuning into this video. I am Prabuddha Goswami and I am currently a third year student at GIMS. And today we'll be starting off a new lecture series on general pharmacology and I will be teaching you on behalf of Make Medical Easy. So without further ado, let's set the ball rolling. So before I start off, a very important life lesson which I abide by is that I always remember that life is short and memory is shorter. And since time is money, hence memory is very precious. So we must use our memory judiciously, especially in the field of medicine, where there's a whole body of knowledge to amass. But what is a fraction of knowledge that we need to retain or that we need to understand in more depth and clarity is what will make us different from the rest, right? So always remember, use your memory judiciously because it is very precious. Okay, so what will we be studying today? Today we will be studying some key definitions of pharmacology, and I will be telling you about the roots of drug administration and the essential questions related to them. Now, as I teach you the respective slides from here on, I will tell you what are the questions that you need to be alert for in your vivas, and what are the questions that you need to be going through for your theory exams as well, right? So what is pharmacology? We all know pharmacology is that subject in our second year, which, at the sound of which we're all afraid, right? And which makes us go to sleep very often. But is it really so boring? No, my friend, I promise you it is not. So pharmacology is the science of drugs. It is derived from a Greek, it is derived from two Greek terms, I'm sorry. One is pharmakon, which means drug, and the other means logos, that is a discourse in or the study of. So pharmacology per se has two chief divisions. One is pharmacodynamics and the other is pharmacokinetics. Okay, so what exactly is pharmacodynamics? So pharmacodynamics refers to what the drug does to our body. So it is what a drug does to our body once it is administered, right? So here we see the drug is being administered to our body, and this drug is having a certain physiological and biochemical effects on the body. And how is it taking all these effects on our body? Like how is it acting? That is given by their respective mechanism of actions. So once the drug is administered, it is acting via its mechanism of action, and then it will affect our various levels. So what are these levels? These levels are our organ system level, our subcellular levels, and it also acts at the macromolecular levels, right? And by acting on these levels, what it does? Yes, of course, it does change the physiological and biochemical states in our body, and thus, carries about its desired effect. So this exactly is pharmacodynamics. It is the study of what the drug does to the body. Okay. So here you can see the diagram. I have administered a drug, and it is following its various mechanism of actions, and it is having its activities, right? And this pharmacodynamics is a very basic question which they may often ask you in your viva, and we'll just discover the pharmacodynamics in much more details in the subsequent videos. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. So pharmacokinetics. So from the word kinetics, we can understand it is what the body does on a drug once it is administered. So pharmacokinetics refers to the effect of the body on the drugs, right? It's also called as ADME study. Now, what does ADME stand for over here? A, my friend, stands for absorption. D stands for distribution. M stands for metabolism, and E stands for elimination. So here we see once this drug is administered, it liberates its active chemical components. Then this component is being absorbed in our body, as we can see. Then it is getting metabolized. Once it is metabolized, all the active components of the body of the drug, is distributed to the various parts of the body, and of course to the to its site of action after it is being administered. And once all its action is done, all our drugs are also excreted without being metabolized. It is finally let out of our body via excretion. So this entire cycle of a drug after it enters our body and it is absorbed, metabolized, distributed, and eliminated is known as pharmacokinetics. Okay. And sorry, I'm sorry. This pharmacokinetics topic, like what is pharmacokinetics, is also a very basic question, which your examiners may start off with during a vivas. So just remember the concept. Okay. So with this, we come to the first, definition which I'm very sorry to say we have to mug up. I personally hate mugging up definitions, but there are some definitions, which are important in creating a very good, first impression on the examiner. So, the viva, and once you establish a very firm first impression, with your examiner as you go into the viva table, I promise you, my friend, and I speak from personal experience, the viva is no longer a question answer session. Once you impress them, it becomes more of a discussion, and marks are guaranteed. Anyways, so what exactly is a drug? As we know, the drugs form the basis of pharmacology and medicines per se. So a drug is any substance or a product that is used or is intended to be used to modify or explore physiological systems or pathological states for the benefit of the recipient, right? So, for example, so here we're talking about exploration of the physiological systems also, right? So it is not always that we always, administer or take in drugs whenever there is any pathology or, whenever we have some diseases, right? Drugs in our body can also be used for diagnostic purposes, right? For example, to ensure that all our normal, organs, for example, our kidneys, our lungs, are functioning properly, right? There are also drugs like that. Hence, these drugs help us to explore our physiological system, where there is no, there's no problem per se. But once these physiological systems, go haywire and any pathology develops, then we can use the drugs to cure that pathology, right? And to simplify, it is the sole active chemical entity which is present in a medicine which helps us in the diagnosis and treatment of a disease. Or diagnosis or treatment of a disease. Obviously, like I said, after we administer any drug, every drug has a particular active chemical component in it, and this component forms the basis of that drug's particular action. So once it is administered, it will either help us to diagnose, what exactly is the pathology, or it will help us to treat the pathology. And as I've already told you, it can also be applied for physiological states, the normal physiology of our body. Okay. Okay. This is a what exactly is a what exactly do you mean by pharmacy? Pharmacy is again, a viva topic. So when you give your exams and, when you have to ask you for pharmacy, before they set up, set off asking you questions about what preparation you have made in your pharmacy, they often ask you, what exactly do you mean by pharmacy? So pharmacy, my friends, is the art and science of CDPS. We remember it as CDPS. Four letters, easy and done. So what exactly does C stand for? C stands for compounding, D stands for dispensing, P stands for preparation of, and S stands for suitable dosage forms for the administration of the drugs, right? So pharmacy is the science and the art of compounding, dispensing, preparing, and preparing of the suitable dosage forms for the administration of drugs, right? So what are the steps of pharmacy? Pharmacy steps include collection, identification, purification, synthesis, standardization, and quality control of medicinal substances. I implore you to study these steps only for the purpose of your own knowledge, and the steps are usually not asked for your exams, but what can be asked and will be asked in your pharmacy viva is the definition of pharmacy. One more important thing is that we often use this component that we see right here in our pharmacy practicals, to mix the various components of a pharmaceutical mixture, if I may say. So this combination is called a mortar and a pestle. So what exactly is the mortar, and which one is the pestle, right? So my friends, I have for you here this thing, this this rod like substance, this is the pestle, right? With this you mix the thing, and this bowl right here, like you see, like I've also done in the diagram, is called the mortar. So this is the pestle and this is the mortar. So we pour the drugs inside and then we mix it like this, right? So this is a pestle and this is a mortar. Always remember, and never mix it up. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, this is another topic, which is very important for your theory examination, and it comes as a short note. So, what exactly is drug nomenclature? Now, as we know, as the name suggests, nomenclature refers to the process of giving names, right? So, a drug has three names or three different nomenclatures. One is the chemical name of a drug, and what exactly does the chemical name suggest? It denotes the chemical structure of the particular drug, right? Then we have the non-proprietary name, and we have the proprietary or the brand name. The non-proprietary name is assigned by a competent body or an authority like USAN. Now USAN stands for United States Adopted Names Council, which is a body or an authority, and which gives these drugs their particular names. And every country usually has these different competent bodies or authorities, and these names are accepted universally. And next we have the proprietary or the brand names. Now these names are given by the drug manufacturers. See here, for example, acetyl salicylic acid is the chemical structure of aspirin, right? So this is this is the acetyl salicylic acid molecule with the acetyl ring, as we can beautifully see. So the chemical name of aspirin is acetyl salicylic acid. Now the non-proprietary name, which is given by the competent body or authority, is aspirin, like we see over here. We can see aspirin written over here. And a proprietary or a brand name, which is given by the drug manufacturer, is Risprin. Over here, for example, there's a company called Bayer. They sell their own aspirin, with their own respective names. So, the proprietary or the brand names of the drugs may vary from manufacturer to manufacturer. So this is drug nomenclature, and this is a very important question, because it is often asked as a short note in your theory examinations. Okay. Okay, one more important topic which is essential again for your theory examination and is usually asked as a short note is, what exactly are essential drugs? Now, according to the World Health Organization, drugs that satisfy the primary healthcare needs of a particular population. Okay, so that is a definition, but as is often we define or we derive a very few very less information from the definition itself. So what exactly is an essential drug? For example, in a country like ours, okay, where we have high cases of tuberculosis, we have high cases of influenza, common cold, or the flu, as we may call it. So, in our country, we will take drugs which are suitable, and which are effective towards these particular, essential diseases, or these widespread diseases which are relevant with our particular country. We Indians, mostly are dark-skinned people. So we have a high amount of melanin in our skin. So in our country, skin cancer, skin pathologies are not that common, right? Because in the West, there are fair-skinned people, and once fair-skinned people are exposed more to UV radiations, they have a high chance of developing skin anomalies. So in that case, in countries of the West, I will prefer drugs. I will keep more drugs in stock for such skin-related diseases, right? But in India, that is not the case. So, when can I say a drug is an essential drug? A drug can only be classified as an essential drug when we know about its efficacy, its safety in use, its quality, bioavailability, stability on storage, and drugs relevant to the prevalent pattern of diseases, like I told you, and of course, cost-benefit ratio. For example, if there are two drugs, which are almost the same efficacy, that is, they can act in almost the same manner, we'll see, which one costs more, and or we'll see which one costs less and has more benefits. And obviously, that drug is selected as the essential drug. Now, in our country, some examples of a few essential drugs include anesthetic agents, which are used to induce anesthesia, antivenoms, because obviously, as we know, a lot of 75%, a huge chunk of our economy is dependent on our farmer brothers, right, and on farming. And India obviously is a agrarian economy per se. Much of it is so. Farmers are often susceptible to snake bites, and when they land up at your PHC, you have to administer them antivenom, which is also an essential drug. Then they have NSAIDs, which stands for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Then we have the medicines for pain and palliative care. Okay, So these are the essential drugs, and I hope you've understood the concept of essential drugs. Okay. So what exactly are orphan drugs? Orphan drugs is another very interesting concept. Orphan drugs are drugs or biological products that are used for the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention. You can remember it with D, T, and P. Diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of rare disease conditions, and the drugs whose production cost cannot be recovered from the sales of the drug alone. Now, such drugs are called as orphan drugs. And government in developed countries fund the pharma companies for making such drugs. And so basically these are drugs that are devised, as the definition is saying, is devised for the disease conditions which are not very common. So for example, if I or you or or anyone else is unfortunate enough to get these rare diseases, so we cannot dispose them of, right? We have to take care of them and we have to cure them. So these drugs take care of these rare disease conditions. And what are some examples? Some examples include colchicine and digoxin antibody. As you can see, this is a picture of digoxin antibody, digibind, and colchicine, as you can see, is used in the treatment of pericarditis and is an orphan drug. Okay, and this question is also often asked in your theory exam, and this is a short note. Okay, so let's move on. One more important question is, what exactly do you mean by a P drug? Okay, so I'll tell you, P over here stands for personal drugs. Okay, so for example, as you can see, there are three drugs. There's a drug A, there's a drug B, and there's a drug C in here. Okay, so I have three drugs at my disposal. Now, I, as a physician, will obviously have a few drugs about which I know everything about, right? So I know about their pharmacokinetics, I know about that particular drug's pharmacodynamics. Okay, I know about their side effects. What is the amount of bioavailability that it has. These are the drugs that I will very frequently prescribe to my patients, right? Because I know if anything goes wrong, if there are any side effects of the drugs, I can deal with them properly, right? So I know everything about these drugs, and these drugs I'll often prescribe to my patients. So these are the P drugs or the personal drugs, right? And P drugs, the concept of P drugs becomes relevant because of varying availability and the cost of the drugs, and differ between country to country and doctors to doctors. Okay. And why is this concept relevant? This concept is relevant because the latest and the most expensive drug, may not be the best. And by developing one's own set of P drugs, we can learn to handle pharmacological concepts and drug-related data in an effective manner. And we can prescribe alternatives. And one has a final responsibility for his or her patient's well-being, which he cannot pass on to others. Obviously, because I know everything about the drugs, so I am prescribing the drugs, being fully aware of all the side effects, and the pros and cons, right? So I must take full responsibility if anything goes haywire. And how do we choose a drug? The process of choosing a P drug can be done in 5 steps. We define the diagnosis, as to what has happened to the patient. We specify the therapeutic objective, as to which is the, which aspects of the disease we have to cure. And then we make a huge list or an inventory of effective groups of drugs that we can prescribe. And then from that group, we choose the effective group according to the criteria. And from that particular group of drugs, we choose a P drug. Okay, so I hope this concept of P drug is clear. And this is often asked as a, again, this is important for a theory exam, and this is often asked as a short note. Okay, so do this, P drug concept very well. Okay, then we come on, to a very important topic, which is again the routes of drug administration. This is often asked in your theory examinations, and is a long question candidate. Okay, so what are the routes of drug administration? These are the local routes or the systemic routes, right? The local routes include, topical routes, and systemic routes per se include enteral route and the parenteral route. The enteral route, what do you mean by enteral? Enteral means through the intestine, and the enteral route includes the oral routes and the rectal route, and the parenteral route, which means not through the intestine. These are again divided into two subtopics, which are subtypes, which are injectable parenteral drugs and non-injectable parenteral drugs. Injectable parenteral drugs include routes that, such as intravenous route, subcutaneous route, and intravascular route. And the non-injectable routes include the sublingual, the transdermal, the nasal, and the inhalation routes. Okay, so and there are also some special routes of drug administrations, for example, Ocusert, Progestasert, liposomal preparations, and monoclonal immunoglobulins. We learn about them, we'll learn about all these drugs, in future course. So don't get too apprehensive, right? we learn everything step by step. See, this is a very beautiful picture which shows us the various routes of drug administration. This is taken from KD Tripathi, so you can, you can go through this diagram, and if you like, you'll love it. Okay. Okay. One more important part are the transdermal therapeutic systems. Now, these are now a transdermal therapeutic system is again a short note candidate, okay, and is asking a theory examination. So, this is a cutaneous route of drug administration, right? These are devices or which are available in various shapes and sizes, and they deliver their contained drug at a constant rate into the systemic circulation across the stratum corneum. We have these patches, which we can stick on our skin, and via the stratum corneum, these patches will contain certain drugs, and these drugs will be delivered into our circulation, through our skin, right? And what are the sites? We can apply them on our chest, on our abdomen, on our buttocks, or on our mastoid. And examples include glyceryl trinitrate, which we often use for angina pectoris, nicotine, or estradiol. And as you can see, see this picture is depicting the layers of the skin, and this is, the stratum corneum, through which we are applying all, the stratum spinings from basal and basal. This is the entire epidermis over which we are applying the patch, and the drug is getting delivered slowly, slowly. Now, this is a drug, you can see this is a drug reservoir. So this drug reservoir is the area where, we actually store the drug, and this, when applied on the skin, will deliver the drug at a particular rate, at a particular fixed rate into our systemic circulation. Okay, so what are the advantages? The advantages of the transdermal route is that these patches are self-administered. Obviously, they have high patient compliance, they are very long-acting, and there are less of systemic side effects, and they provide smooth plasma concentration of these drugs without much fluctuation. But as we all know, there are also disadvantages to everything. So there may be local irritation, erythema, matlab, the area is reddened, and these routes are often expensive, and these patches are often expensive. Okay. One more important question, which is asked also, in a short note or a long question candidate, is the intravenous route. So why is the intravenous route so important? Okay. So first of all, before we begin to the intravenous, intravenous, as the name suggests, is administering drugs through our veins, right? So the dosage forms include bolus, slow IV injection, or IV infusion, right? So again, the IV route has some advantages and disadvantages. You should memorize this by these advantages and disadvantages by heart, because they are very often asked. And these are also asked in your Viva. So the advantages is that the drug reaches the bloodstream and the effects are produced immediately, right? Because you're directly administering it via your veins, so it is directly reaching your systemic circulation. Next, while we administer the drug, the intima of the veins are rendered senseless. That is, they are anesthetized mostly, and hence highly irritant drugs, which may have been very difficult to gulp down or administered by other routes, can be administered via this route. And thirdly, a very large volume of fluid can also be administered, together via the IV route. Then again, we have some disadvantages. What are the disadvantages? One is thrombophlebitis. Thrombophlebitis, refers to inflammation of the veins, right? And superadded necrosis or cell death to the adjacent tissues due to extravasation of the fluid, right? Second of all, we can only administer aqueous solutions, which is obvious. We cannot administer, solid drugs or, powdered drugs via the IV route. And third of all, the vital organs may be damaged as well. Okay, so this is a very important question, and is often asked in a clumped format with the routes of drug administration. Okay, then what are the drugs which are commonly administered via IV route? They include drugs like doxorubicin, cisplatin, and then we have meropenem, amphotericin, and hydromorphone and morphine. These are the routes, drugs, which are commonly administered via the intravenous route. Okay, so my friends, that was my topic for today. It was a small and concise, discussion, and because this is the first video in the series, I don't want you to get too apprehensive or too scared of the subject. This is a lovely subject, and I'm sure we will be able to work a way out through this subject in a very, very, very interesting manner. And I, if you know this guy, this guy is called Khabi, and he is very popular in TikTok nowadays because he loves to simplify overcomplicated stuff. And this guy is just like me. I hate overcomplicating stuff, And so I also follow his principle. And I think, and I hope, across this short discussion, I wasn't, boring you too much. And again, thank you for your kind attention, and see you again in the next video.